about the things.
And welcome to the Corner Cafe, and I have one of my good friends, Biff Gore, with me, and just excited to see you, Biff.
I'm so excited to see you too.
Woo.
What cool digs this is.
Yeah, you know, how long has it been Corner Cafe from the studio, and finally we have a set that, you know, is a cafe.
Finally in a cafe.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
So cheers to that. But cheers also, Biff. You have so many exciting things going on. Now, for those of you who are familiar with Corner Cafe and have followed us, you know that Biff is a personality of the show. But Biff does so many different things. He's really, you know, you've blessed us just being a personality and just in the community. You're doing so many things. And I was fortunate to sing with my dad this past Christmas at your Christmas concert, which is it's annual Christmas concert.
Yes. We're going to do it again. And you and I have to sing a song together.
Yes. Well, so Biff, you know, I need some practice though, because Biff can go off the cuff, and I'm like, well, can we practice this at least like 10 times?
Yeah, we can do it. If we start now, we'll be ready.
Right.
You know, once a month until Christmas is 10 times.
There you go. Exactly. All right. Well, I'm in.
Okay.
So, and you know, one of the things a goal for the new year is to start singing again and practicing guitar, because it's a gift that I haven't utilized, because my excuse has been never enough time. But Biff, you are able to make your time really spread because you're doing so many things. So you're a pastor, worship leader, singer, songwriter, personality of Corner Cafe, and we're announcing here on the show that Biff is going to get his own radio show. Woohoo! Yay! So let's talk about that. What's going to be the theme of your show?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you to you. You've been my inspiration for the last 10 years. And I just remember how excited I was the first time you asked me to. Well, I think I begged you to be part of your show. I was like, "Can I please?"
No, it was like, yes, wow, we have Biff Gore.
Oh my goodness! It was a mutual adoration club, because I know how I felt about coming on and being a part. You and Jamie, y'all do just a fantastic job of engaging musicians first and foremost, talking about relative things in the industry and in the world and in the culture. And so I've really enjoyed being a part of Corner Cafe for 10 years.
Yes. Yeah. I can't believe it's been 10 years.
Time
flies, man. And, you know, you think about how quickly time flies, and then all these things that the Lord has put on our heart to do. So Biff, with now knowing that the Lord is moving you now into your own show, what do you think, or what do you know He's asking you to do with the show?
Yeah, so I think it's going to be called Biff Gore Live. And my moniker is the ambassador of soul, but it's going to be the voice of Colorado. And so I'm going to talk about entertainment. I'm going to talk about music. And really, I want to really dig into music, right? Like how a song is constructed and take a different spin on music than what Corner Cafe does, because you guys do a great job of highlighting and featuring artists. But I'm probably going to talk about The Voice, the television show The Voice. I may throw in the summertime, I may talk about AGT, and so it's going to be it's going to have an entertainment component to it that's has a little different spin. I'll talk about some pop, maybe some country stuff, and how and then a biblical worldview of how we should look at these songs, and then current events.
Yes. So, wow. Sounds like an amazing show. I know it's going to be amazing. And the cool thing too is now Corner Cafe airs on KLTT, and we air now at 5 p.m. on Saturdays, and Biff's show is going to be right after us. So you're going to get a full hour of entertainment. Woohoo! And you know, what's interesting too is we now with the Corner Cafe, we're kind of getting more towards just interesting guests, kind of getting out of the artistry thing. Still, though, we have a lot of connections with artists. We'll still be interviewing artists. But I just think how that's so interesting, how we're kind of being led to be more topical as a show. Right. And now your show will be great with the entertainment and more of the artists and stuff, and talking about, I love how you said you're going to be talking about songs and how they're built, and how you can write a song biblically. But one thing, Biff, with your music, it's a biblical worldview, but it's still catchy to unbelievers, which I love.
Yes. And I might talk about some political stuff too. But here's the thing I think is really interesting about Corner Cafe that I really love. When you go walk into a coffee shop, you hear everything. You don't just hear music.
Right.
You hear music it's the white noise in the background that kind of get you unfocused and get you to barely hear what's going on at the next table. But what I love about Corner Cafe is now that you're going to start doing more topical things, it's really going to let out this other part of you that people need to know. And that is, you've been in this genre, this industry for a long time, even though you're only like 22 years old.
Yeah.
I think people are going to see a side of you, that journalistic side of you, the writing, the journalism, the way you capture the ideas around current events and around topics. I think it's pretty fascinating.
Well, thank you. I'm excited.
I'm waiting for you to write that book.
Yes. Well, Biff has been encouraging me to write that book, and I just have to be praying. And what is the book about? I mean, there's a lot of ways we can go with that, but I think that would be exciting too. Yeah. Well, so thank you, Biff. You're just an encourager. I mean, everybody Biff's around, he encourages to be doing their thing and to be seeking the Lord towards that. So Biff, we only have a half hour, and I want to make sure that we get all the things that you're doing. So one of the really cool things about last year around Christmas time is Jamie and I and his new wife Solange and some friends, we went down to Castle Rock, the Star of Castle Rock celebration. And you're a part of that. For how many years have you been a part of that?
This is my seventh. So if the Lord allows me to go next year, it'll be my 8th year in a row.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's so special. And it's like a small town.
It is Americana.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. And just, the being proud for Christmas, being proud for our country. All those themes are intertwined within that celebration.
Yeah. In today's age, you talk about people praying and singing Christmas music with the word Jesus in it. And you watch, I mean, there were 25,000 plus people out there last year at the event. And there wasn't one protest. There wasn't people weren't acting crazy. It was a coming together of a community, a small town community. And that's really, I call that the American dream.
Right.
It's the best of the experiment of, the experiment of e pluribus unum. All these people becoming one.
Yeah.
And so it was really neat.
Yeah, it was neat. I got tears in my eyes. I'm like, why haven't I done this before? I've lived in Colorado for how long, but I'm definitely going back next year for sure. So you're doing that, Biff, and then you're around town singing as well, coming up at different spots. I get the gigs, invites, and so for this year with singing, and obviously the show is now going to be new on your plate. What do you envision as the voice of Colorado?
Well, like you one of the things you said you want to do is write and pick your guitar up and start doing more with that.
Yeah.
I have a goal I want to do 2 albums this year.
Exciting.
And it's a daunting task, but it can be done.
Yeah. And
I feel like, every year, how we make these resolutions. Well, this isn't a resolution. I think this is something that I need to do.
Yeah.
And so that's on my plate this year.
Yeah.
Along with all the other little things that I want to do. But
right.
I really feel like I'm in a creative space that I haven't been in a long time. And typically, what inspires me to write a song is somebody like you will call me and say, "Hey, Biff, you should write a song about blah, 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 blah." And because I have a theme, and then if they give me a timeline, if they say, "But I need it in the next 2 weeks," I can pump out a song like that.
Yeah.
But if I'm just waiting and resting, it's like I'm not listening for words to come to me or a beat to come to me or something like that.
I'm similar too. I have to have a deadline and an important deadline to get things done, or else it just won't get done. Maybe that's what I need to do, just writing songs.
Yeah.
Get some deadline going, and like, I'm going to be at this coffee shop at this date, and if I don't have 5 new songs,
right,
it's not going to happen. So I'm very similar to that. So, and then with that, Biff, I do want to mention, if we can transition, because we just had the Right to Life month.
Sanctity of Life was recently.
Yeah. And so, Biff, you've played a huge role in that for our listeners and people watching the video who don't know, but you are the president.
So I'm the past president of Colorado Right to Life.
Okay.
And all good things must go to a hiatus. And maybe someday I will be president again, but I'm still one of the directors.
Okay.
Will Duffy's the president. now, and it really is a shared responsibility from a lot of people. It's a figurehead, but right now I'm working with Colorado Life Initiative, and they actually are putting out some legislation that basically says life begins at conception, and people can save a baby's life just by signing a petition. So we can get it onto it can make it onto the ballot this year. That'll be in November. And I love what Rabbi Walker said on recently on Sanctity of Life Sunday. He said, when the church decides that abortion will end, it will end.
Yeah.
It's an atrocity, and it is a Holocaust in our culture. It belittles women. It defames them. It makes them these wounded people who are walking around, and it deprives us of the human life that is inside of them.
Yeah.
And so we have to stand up for life, and we have to do everything that we can by the power of God that lives on the inside of us. So I've been a spokesperson for life for a long time. I didn't always think like that because I wanted to go along with the rest of the world.
Yeah.
I grew up in a city that was pretty liberal, and I just didn't have a biblical worldview. But when you love Jesus and you understand he's the author of life and how he talks about, if you even speak hatred against your brother, he calls that murder.
Right.
And so we have to protect life.
Right.
And if we were to do that, and we could turn our culture back. Mm-hmm. Now, is legislation the way to do it? It's a means.
Yeah.
But really, every Christian has a duty and a responsibility. Every moral person has a duty and a responsibility. And basically, that is talking about the sanctity of human life and how we are all made in God's image.
Right.
And how we ought to respect people and respect life. And we ought to respect the boundaries that God put on certain things, like sex outside of marriage.
Right.
Period.
Right. Yeah, because I think the responsibility with abortion, sadly, like these, sometimes young ladies with, who just maybe didn't have a good father or whatever, they got themselves in this situation, and then the men are coercing them to. It's like an easy, you just go have an abortion or whatever. There's so many problems with this, but one of which is it's just putting the responsibility. There's no responsibility whatsoever, no consequences, because you could just go get an abortion.
Yeah. The other one is big time misinformation.
Yeah.
Young women are really nervous and scared when they get pregnant. It's a life change.
Yeah.
And then when you're told all these lies about when life begins, mm-hmm. Then you have to make and you're told that it's a decision that will change the rest of your life, and that your life will be better on the other side of this.
Right.
It's not true.
Right.
You go to jail if you killed a pup. If you beat a dog that was pregnant and the puppy died, you'd go to jail for that. But if you decide that this child is worthless to you, there's no consequences for that.
Right. It's so sad.
It is sad.
Yeah.
We can protect condors and condor eggs, but we can't protect a baby.
Right.
And a mother's womb has been it's the most dangerous place to live.
Yeah.
And the statistics check out this statistic that they keep leaving out. Abortion is the number one cause of death in America. Not COVID or cancer or any of these other things, or heart disease.
Right.
Abortion.
Right.
Abortion is the number one cause of death, especially in the Black community.
Yeah. So
it's a pretty sad state of affairs.
Right.
And I believe this, and since 1973 and since 1968 in Colorado, we have erased 65 million people from existence.
Yeah.
Now, imagine what America would be like if we had 65 million extra people living here.
Right.
Doctors, lawyers, people who are being productive, people,
business owners,
yeah,
pastors.
somebody who had the cure to cancer, to specific types of cancer, gone.
Yeah.
And I believe that's one of the reasons why we have this border crisis now. Everywhere you look, you see for wanted signs and and they say unemployment is so great. Well, if we weren't murdering all of our citizens, we and also I live in the inner city. I look at all the population in the schools is going down. Why? Because you don't have you're not bringing up the next generation of children who would go through an education system, right? So I don't understand why the teachers unions aren't more pro-life, because you're cutting people out of you're cutting out your future constituents.
Yeah, so. I know. And, there's so many layers of lies, if you will, to like an onion to peel away. And then, believing, a lot of things like, oh, the population is going to get too big. So that's another excuse, population is going to get too big, or what you want all these kids who are unwanted around, but then you have a lot of people who can adopt, many people who would want to adopt. Right.
Yeah.
So, we'll continue to talk about this issue. It's very sad. And
it is.
Just, radio listeners, people watching on the video as well. And radio listeners, you can go to cornercaferadio.com to our website and watch the video. And you can see Biff's smiling face. Be praying about this, because I think we have been, you're right, complacent in the church. And we don't know how to take our faith in such issues like abortion to have a intelligent conversation. And I think we're intimidated because, quote unquote, science says, well, when is a baby, so that maybe Christians are just intimidated to have that, that discussion too. So,
and it's not well, I mean, we know what science would say. The people who deny that that's a life, they're the science deniers. So this is just political science. This has nothing to do with common sense science. Right. But I also want to challenge Christians who think, I wish they wouldn't think so black and white about being in these parties, the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, because they will always betray you because your allegiance is to Christ.
Amen.
And you have to ask the question, who do I belong to? Whose side? Who's on the Lord's side?
Right.
And if you're on the Lord's side, 90% of these issues you won't even be comfortable with.
Right.
And so anyway.
Yes, I agree completely. Yeah. We need to be in the party of Jesus.
Hallelujah. Look what God can do.
Right. So, and we'll continue to have a conversation. I'm excited for you to also be talking about that on your show, because you've made a huge difference already, and will continue to make a huge difference, because we got to talk about it. And we have to have the conversation. So,
and we have to encourage pastors to be bold.
Right.
There's a lack of boldness in the community, because we've been told that the church doesn't have a voice. The church has a huge voice.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I think about the Black Robe League at the turn of the century that said we have to stand against tyranny, right? And they encouraged those early forefathers to go in the not the Civil War, but the Revolutionary War.
Yeah.
And then I think about the church that stood against the horrific practice of slavery.
Right.
Chattel slavery was awful.
Right.
And it was justified by a minority of people in the church. So people like to blame slavery on the church. There was a few people. Those are the people who knew how to use Christianity in order to pimp people. Right. We still have the same thing today. You have a few people in the church,
right,
who are pimping people for their own agenda.
Yeah.
And think about it in terms of politics.
Right.
People support of one candidate on the left or a candidate on the right.
Right.
And these people show up in your churches and tell you what you want to hear, and then they do absolutely nothing for you because they're all globalists.
Right. Exactly. And see, the problem would be fixed Christians, because Christians are the ones who say that we believe in the Bible, right? Back to slavery, and even before that, even scientifically, if we just believe the Bible, because with slavery, for example, the believers, God made Adam and Eve. Humankind came from Adam and Eve, so we're obviously all the same.
That's right.
I have red hair, I have freckles. Everyone looks different because in the DNA, God allowed for different variations.
That's right.
Because He's genius, of course, and He knew that in different environments we would change physically to be able to adapt properly to that environment and be safe.
That's right.
So if people back then reading the Bible would have just taken it as it is and actually believed it, all these issues wouldn't be the case, along with abortion. And we'll continue that conversation. We're going to go to a break, though, real quick. So stay tuned to the Corner Cafe.
Is it just a fortunate accident that plants take in carbon dioxide and produce oxygen, which we then breathe and turn into carbon dioxide? Of course it isn't. And we'll tell you why on today's Creation Moment. And now our Creation Moments host, Paul Taylor.
Green plants are green mostly because of a green pigment called chlorophyll. Many of us learned in high school that this green pigment is what causes photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is that key process by which a plant can manufacture useful high-energy molecules such as sugars. In the photosynthetic process, the plant absorbs carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and water transpiring from its roots to create sugar molecules. The byproduct, oxygen, is released into the atmosphere. At first sight, this seems pretty straightforward, but there is of course a lot more to it. The process becomes especially difficult to understand if one wants to assume that this is a process that came into existence by evolution. Our first problem is that the reaction requires an input of energy. Chemists call this an endothermic reaction. Such reactions are not unusual, though reactions requiring the input of light energy are less common than those inputting heat energy. However, if you fill a jar with water and carbon dioxide and shine a light into it, you will not make sugar molecules. Therefore, chlorophyll is not just a catalyst for the reaction, it is an essential intermediary without which the reaction cannot happen. In fact, a whole book can be written on the complexity of this process and the interdependability of every step. And then we go further to see how animals get their energy from plants, so every energy chain comes back to photosynthesis. It's a process that looks like it was designed by God for a purpose, and that's exactly what the Bible says.
If you enjoyed today's broadcast, you'll be able to read thousands of radio transcriptions in our best-selling book series, Letting God Create Your Day. To find out more, visit us at creationmoments.com or call 1-800-42-BIBLE.
And welcome back to the Corner Cafe, and I'm talking with my great friend Biff Gore. And Biff, it's been a great conversation. We need more time, but with that, you're just gonna have to tune into Biff's new show coming up here, and then keep tuning into the Corner Cafe, and we're gonna have Biff back as a regular, as he is a personality. So Biff, we were just talking about, slavery and believing the Bible and how all these issues, horrible things throughout the generation, slavery, now abortion, if people would just go back to the Bible.
If they would just go back. So for instance, slavery was all in the Bible, right? But if you look at the law, and usually it was people selling themselves into slavery, which would be indentured servitude, which would be the equivalent of you working for a boss today, right? What was a sin about slavery is when you kidnapped a person, when you stole a person and made them your slave. That is what was wrong about slavery. And in the law, it said that those persons were to be put to death. You can ignore that to get your own agenda.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. Going back to the history. And a lot of times, just knowing history within the Bible too, when nations would take over another nation, then those nations would become slaves to the other nation and stuff. So it's an interesting conversation, but to know history and then to, go with the values of the Bible would end a lot of situations. So we as Christians now with abortion, we have to, be praying and stick up for what the Bible says, that life is at conception.
That's right.
Yeah. So,
all right. So I have a question for you.
Okay.
So I know I love your album. I got a copy of your album last year, and I listened to it. It's in rotation in my car. I know I'm one of those people that still has a CD player in the car. Who are your influences, music-wise, singer-songwriter, guitar player?
Yeah, well, thank you for asking, Biff.
Yeah.
It was a while ago I did my album, but growing up, I really loved Jewel.
Ooh.
I loved her, and then
I
loved, techno. That's why I have a techno song on my album too, and I like the jazzy stuff, like Nora Jones, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think my future album, Lord willing, would be kind of more jazzy undertones, super chill, probably, like what's the verbiage? More like not techno, but just kind of like maybe a salsier vibe to it, Country I love, but I think that my voice would probably be more suited to, because I don't have that belting voice like the country singers have. So I think my style would probably better fit to kind of like a Nora Jonesy type jazzy undertones.
So I think you would have a great country voice, and here you'd be more like folk.
Yeah.
Or Americana.
Yeah.
All the country stuff that I hear today all sounds the same to me. It's all bro country. I got some beers and I went down her.
Got a beers,
you know what I'm saying?
My dog left me and my wife left me. Yeah.
That's right. Somebody left me and they took my dog with them. And I'm going, come on, is there more to talk about than that?
Well, I would hope so, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Here's the other one. Like, how come all the patriotic songs are written by country music people?
Right.
I want to hear.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I'm challenging, one of the songs I'm challenging myself to write this year is a guttural R&B patriotic song.
I love that. Yeah, and start the trend within the different genres.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be the case, but yeah.
And I want to write a country song. I want to write a country song that's more like old, like Merle Haggard kind of country.
Yeah.
But with my own twist on it.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. Yeah. Okay, so a question for you, Biff. Who do you have is going to be producing, or who are you talking to as the producer?
For my show?
For your album.
Oh, for my album.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm just going to write it. I've connected with a group out of Nashville, but I'm probably going to. I've asked Darren Ron if he would consult with me and just give me some pointers and some tips on placement of sonic things in the music, because he's
amazing.
Oh
yeah. Well, that's exciting, Biff.
Yeah.
But just once again, listeners, we're going to wrap up here. Biff's going to be back on the show. He has his own show now. How can our listeners get in touch with you, Biff?
Well, all my social media platforms is Biff Gore. You can find me BiffGore on the X platform. I'm Biff Gore, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. So, and then pretty soon you'll be able to find me on the radio.
Woohoo! Yeah, and KLTT Corner Cafe airs at 5, and then Biff's show will be airing at 5:30. So absolutely stay tuned and check Biff out on all his social media channels so you can know exactly when the day is that he's going to be launching a show. And we'll see you at the cafe next time.
God bless.
This is forever.